All right, I would like to start off with an opening treatment. Treatment is the way we implant new, better, greater ideas into our minds because we know that nothing comes to our lives until it occurs, first of all, as an idea. Ideas are the seeds of all events. All right, we want new ideas, we have to think them. We want to get them fast, we have to think them fast. All right, we want to get the ideas we want, we have to pick them out, think about them, implant them, and make them part of our thinking. Spiritual mind treatment is one way we do that. Now, I would like to do a treatment to give myself and anybody who wants to participate in the treatment a greater, better, more prosperous idea about this thing we call time. Because a lot of us inadvertently go through a lot of our life with time as our enemy. Time is the reason we can't do this. Time is the reason we're in a hurry to do that. We never have enough time. We're always running out of time. And there's a lot of fear and trepidation surrounding the idea of time. Now, it's important to know that time is man's invention, not God's. All right? And there is no such thing as time in real life. And what we have invented as a way to help us measure and gauge ourselves as we go away, we have often turned into a weapon against ourselves. And every time you say you don't have time to do good for yourself, what you're saying is that somehow life is compelling you not to do good for yourself, and that's dumb. So let's heal the idea. Here's the treatment I would do for myself and will do for myself. I invite you to accept it for yourself if you choose, silently and in the first person. All right, I live in a universe that is full of life. That is life, living itself in an infinite variety of ways, life always increasing itself, expressing itself, and making itself known unto itself. My life is a center of this divine activity, and my life is for the purpose of letting life succeed in a particular, unique, and very expressive way. Life knows me as its opportunity to know itself better, to celebrate itself more, and to extend itself further. Life does not impose any limitation on me. Life does not give me a limited amount of time in which to thrive, to live, to grow, to be, and to express. There is no time in the mind of God. It is always the right time. And I am always able to take time to do whatever it is it occurs to me I believe should be done. Nothing compels my attention. Nothing occupies me to the point that I am not able at any given time to stop it, drop it, and turn in a new direction. I am not obligated by time. I am not in a foot race with life. I am eternal life living always in the present. There is always time, and I've got it, and I know it, and never will I let myself be hoodwinked into believing that I cannot live better, do better, enjoy better, because time is against me. This is the truth. My realization of it in this moment changes my consciousness forever for the better, and I, in great rejoicing, let that be so. And so it is. Well, title of my talk today is Being There. Being There. Now, tomorrow is a very important day for serious students of the science of mind here in the Atlanta Church of Religious Science, because tomorrow we begin a new 10-week class series in which we will be learning more about how to change our lives by changing our minds. All right? How to change our lives by changing our minds. Now, this will be a great new opportunity for the students and for the teacher. That's me, to grow wiser and healthier and richer and kinder. The reason I include myself in the great opportunity is there is nobody that learns more from my classes than me. Any teacher that doesn't learn more from his classes than his students isn't doing a good job, right? Isn't really involved in what he's doing. I learn more than anybody else because I not only get to hear it, I get to say it, all right? So I am more connected to what is going on by virtue of being on the platform. At any rate, there will be a greater opportunity for students and for the teacher to grow wiser, healthier, richer, kinder, and to become more of a blessing, not only to ourselves, but to our families, to our friends, and to everyone we have to bump up against as we go along trying to make some sense out of this wonderful thing we call life. Now, we will not be short of students, because I think between the morning and the evening classes we'll have around 300. And that's a crowd in those premises. That's a good chunk of students, all right? And this makes me very, very happy because it encourages me to know we are reaching more and more people all the time with our message of how to change the way you live by changing the way you think. And not only am I encouraged by this, but I am confident that there will always be more and more students every time we present these classes because the market is endless. It really is. The world is absolutely full of decent, intelligent, hard-working people who simply are not getting the most life has to offer them. And this is the big sin of the world, that the fact that there are people who are decent, open, intelligent, hard-working, out there slugging it out every day, giving their very best to it, and not getting the most life really has to offer them. That's the big sin. That's the mortal sin. That's the great mistake. All right? Not getting the most life has to offer them because they don't know how to do what they must do to get that turned around. Because they simply don't know. All right? It is because they don't know. It is not because of who they are. They like to think it's because of who they are because nobody likes to change, and you can't change who you are. So if you can blame your lack of progress on who you are, that gives you carte blanche to sit around on your duff the rest of your life and complain. All right? I'm taking that away from you. It is not because of who you are, all right? Or because of what they are. We all have these unflattering labels we like to attach to ourselves and explain in terms of our self-imposed label why life can't be better. But you don't know what I am. Oh. And it's not because of what they've done or what they failed to do. You know, people are always eager to come in to tell me this awful thing they've done in terms of their living and why they have to live this way. And then they tell me this awful thing they've done. And I'm sitting there going, oh, you did that? Is that all? It's not even good enough for the plot of a morning soap opera. There I get all revved up thinking I'm going to get a real good one, and it's the same old thing. What they've done and what they failed to do. I tell them that I'm glad they're impressed with their wickedness because God isn't. Now, it's not because of any of that stuff. It is because we do not know how to use our minds as constructively as our minds can be used. That's why it is, and that's the only reason it is. Now, this wonderful teaching of ours, you have to understand, is not about changing people. We're not interested in changing people. It is not about changing people. It is not about changing things. It is about changing one thing only. It is about changing consciousness. That's what this teaching is about. It is about changing consciousness. It is about changing the way we think, the way people use their minds. It is about learning how to use our personal thought more constructively. Now, our personal thought is what we think about in the privacy of our own minds and what we really believe about life and about ourselves and about why this is this way and that is that way. That's what we need to change. People have been busy for too many centuries changing their public minds, changing what they were willing to profess. I'm not interested in what you're willing to say you believe or what you're professing. I believe or profess to believe. I think the important thing is what we really believe. All right? So we are interested in allowing the individual an opportunity to be exposed to greater ideas so that that individual can have the option of changing his or her own personal mind. Now, our system of class study is important in this process because it provides us with a definite ongoing program that on a regular week-to-week basis gives us guidance, gives us information, gives us inspiration, and which involves us in a personal commitment to ourselves. Not to the class, because the class goes on anyhow, you see, but a personal commitment to ourselves, which gets us to the point where we are willing to invest ourselves, our time, and our money in something that we personally want to do. Now, we have been teaching these classes long enough to know for sure that the people who get with them and stay with them do tend to be better than they were before they did this. Now, you notice I didn't say became a stellar sensation, because some of them aren't starting very close to that. All right? Become better. They tend to become better than they were to start with, except for those few dear souls who are determined not to, and determined they're going to take these classes to show nothing will work for them. And of course, the law obtains. The law gives us what we believe it will give us. It will give us a failure. If you really want one, you can always have one, all right? But it's self-created, because I don't give any exams. You'll never get an F from me, okay? Now, we have been teaching the classes long enough to know this for sure, that all people who come to them and take them and stay with them do tend to get better than they were before. Now, this is partly because these are very good classes. Yes, very well programmed and brilliantly taught. But the biggest reason for it is, the biggest reason why they work so much good in the life of any particular individual is because that individual, that student, has come there, right? Because that student has brought his or her presence there. This is what makes it possible for the individual to get the good that is being presented. Their presence there. Now, you might say, well, that's obvious. It is obvious, but a lot of people miss the point, right? And a lot of people don't think that's the big deal. But it is very, very difficult for many people to get anywhere that's going to do themselves some good. Right? Absolutely. See, no amount of good can reach into the consciousness of any person who is not there to witness it, who is not there to participate in it. Right? Absolutely. And when people don't learn what they need to learn and get what they need to get, it's because they do not expose themselves to that learning or do not get themselves to the place where it can be gotten. You see, wisdom is not in short supply. It never has been. Wisdom has always circulated widely in the world. Some people have always had it and some people never have. Right? But it's not in short supply. Knowledge is never unknowable. Oh, that's one of the greatest statements I ever made. Knowledge is never unknowable. Knowledge isn't something that hides around the corner when it sees you coming. You say, oh my God, here comes that one. Let's not let them know anything. All right? None of this good stuff is reserved for special people, no matter what the Presbyterians say. There are no spiritually elite, all right? None of this good stuff is reserved for special people or held back for special occasions. I'll get it at Easter, all right? As Dr. Holmes wrote in the textbook, one of his great statements, the universe never plays favorites. Great statement. The universe never plays favorites. I pull that out every once in a while where I think somebody's going to get more than I am. Right? The universe never plays favorites. So, wherever there is something good going on in your world, you can have it. It can become good to you if you will get yourself to where it is happening and take part in it. So the primary requirement is being there. Being there. Now, let me assure the more skeptical folks in the audience, and I hope there are a lot of them, I love skepticism in this church. I really do. Because the skeptical mind is moving, is thinking. You always have some promise and some hope that people are really going to fly as long as they remain skeptical. It's the amen corner that has the deadheads. Oh, anything you say. Anything I say? How can anything I say be true when I change my mind from day to day? I do, you know. That's why I never quarrel when people said, you said this in 1982. I said, well, I must have changed my mind. Because it sure sounds stupid now. Anyhow, let me assure everyone that my purpose in giving this talk is not to coax unwilling people into taking classes, because we really do have enough willing, able, eager people to fill up the classroom very nicely. I'm using the classes as an example because it's very timely. And the purpose of this talk is to teach a lesson in right thinking to the audience that is before me on this very day. Because if you have come here to get a lesson relevant to today, you deserve to have a good one. And this is it. And the heart of today's lesson is right thinking, all right? It is to let you know that the only thing required of you in your pursuit of greatness is your presence. That's it, is your presence. Now, I mean your total presence. I'm speaking sometimes of your physical presence, but I am speaking always of your presence of mind. Right? We need always to be sure we are paying attention to something good if we want to get something good operational in our lives. We need to be sure we are always where, at least in mind, something good is happening. We're always where it's happening and always paying attention. Now, you know, you can only get so much good, so much love, so much wisdom, so much energy by osmosis. A lot of people try to get it all by osmosis, by rubbing it up against somebody else that has it, right? Now, wisdom does have a way of rubbing off on people who rub up against it enough. See, that's why it's always better to run with a good crowd than with a bad crowd, because as long as you're with that crowd, you'll pass for smart, right? So wisdom does have a way. Of course, if you run with the ones that are dumb enough, you might pass for smart too. I've done a lot of that. Anyhow, wisdom does have a way of rubbing off on people who rub up against it often enough. But you only get it on the surface that way. Only on the surface, a patina of it. And the world we live in, with all of its corrosive ideas, very easily eats away at that kind of surface understanding. Now, you've often heard that so-and-so succeeded in this, that, or the other because she was in the right place at the right time. Have you ever heard that? You know that's a put-down. That is a terrible put-down. So-and-so goes somewhere and does well, and that's, well, she was in the right place at the right time. The implication being if I had been there at that time, that would have happened to me too. Yeah. Right? Absolutely, it's a put down. Now, what that overlooks is that person knew how to get to the right place at the right time, and got there, and had the consciousness to get herself there and stay there until she got something out of it, and then she left. Yeah. And if you or I or anybody else is smart enough to do that, we too will be successful, and somebody will be saying, well, he was at the right place at the right time. Yeah. So, today's lesson is about getting smart enough to be there and to stay there. Where? Wherever something worthwhile is happening. Now, I'm using our classes as an example, but wherever something worthwhile is happening. Now, over the last 10 years, we have done 30 10-week class units. That's a lot of 10-week class units, on the average of 3 a year. A lot of people have passed through these classes. And always there is a significant dropout rate. Within every 10-week period, there's a significant dropout rate. I'll bet you we lose 15 to 20 out of every 100. Before the 5th class, significant dropout rate. People sign up, they pay their tuition, they buy all the books, they come to class for a week or two, and they simply drift away. They just drift away. Now, I used to feel terribly rejected. Every 10 weeks, I got rejected. But in time, I realized that they were not rejecting me. They weren't rejecting the science of mind. They weren't rejecting the Atlanta Church of Religious Science. Not at all. Because most of them kept coming to church on Sundays. On most Sundays. Not every Sunday. Who comes on every Sunday but me and David? No, these people who dropped out, just drifted away, they keep showing up. Now, if they hated me, they wouldn't be doing that. If they hated the teaching, they wouldn't be doing that, see? So, they keep showing up every Sunday, on a pretty regular basis, and they keep enrolling in all the new classes. Every 10-week thing, they sign up, pay the tuition, buy the books, and drop out. Now, look. I know that a few of them have really compelling reasons. They get a new job, the hours change, or it takes them out of town, sure. They move out of town. They have a baby, something like that. And of course, there are always just a few that simply can't stand me. Not many. We tend to attract people with superior taste, so that doesn't happen very often. But for the most part, they drop out because they are dropouts. They drop out because they are dropouts. And so as not to affix a bad name to them, let me put it this way. They drop out because they have the dropout habit. They have the dropout habit in all things. They are not good at sticking to their own personal commitments. And I'm talking about the commitments they have made, not the ones somebody has put on them. Sometimes they're very good at sticking to the ones somebody is sitting on, but not their own personal commitments. They cannot be trusted to look after their own best interests. That is a very serious personal problem when you cannot be trusted to look after your own best interests. All right? They do not control their own time well. They do not control their own attention well, in that they do not choose where they are going to put it. They let somebody else dictate that. And they do not have the power to put their priorities in order that is beneficial to their personal desires. Now, they are quite frequently very dependable people in other ways, all right? They are always where their employer expects them to be. They are always where their family expects them to be. They're where their friends want them to be. They're where the media says they ought to be. But they are unable to be where they want to be once a week for 2.5 hours for 10 weeks. They simply can't swing it once a week for 2.5 hours for 10 weeks. This is no control. This is no control. Once a week for 2.5 hours, 10 weeks, doing something they really believe could be of real personal value to them. This is a very serious personal problem.
End of side 1. Please turn your cassette to side 2 at this point.
Now, quite often, they will have a very good reason for why they can't be there, for not being there. Very good reason. Not good enough to survive a cross-examination by me. Yeah, it isn't. That's why they never call me up and tell me about it. That's why when they come on Sunday, they slink past me at the door. Hello. I've seen the trick. They wait for me to shake hands with somebody else and get around them. I really admire them because they come here in terror. Loaded with guilt, only to find I don't care. All right. They come in terror and they leave in rejection. Anyhow, not good enough to convince me to survive my scrutinous observations, but good enough to convince themselves. Now, a lot of people really think that if they can concoct a good excuse for not being there, it counts the same as being there. They really do. They think if they can concoct a good enough excuse for not being there, it counts the same as if they were there, all right? And they really can't understand why their lives are not benefiting as their lives would if they were there doing what they were supposed to be doing. I can't understand. I tried to really go. They have a good reason for not being there, but you've got to be there. Good reason, bad reason, or whatever. You've got to be where it's happening if it's going to happen, no matter what your reason is. Now, people don't get into much difficulty in life because of what they don't know or can't do. Did you realize that? We could be inconvenienced by what we don't know or can't do, but nobody gets into any real trouble because of what we don't know or can't do. Because we can't know everything. God knows I try. We can't know everything, and we can't do everything. That's why people need people. That's why we need each other. And that is why it's important for us to understand and to grow in learning how to live together in love and harmony, because we need each other. We're incomplete within ourselves, you see, on that level. Nobody can do everything that needs to be done for himself. Nobody that can know everything that needs to be known for himself, right? And we don't get in trouble because we don't know everything or we can't do something. Our real problems come because we do not do the best with what we know. We do not do the best with what we already know. That is trouble. Now, there is a price to be paid for all good things. And Dr. Holmes says that the price must be paid in mental and spiritual coin. Great statement, right? There is a price to be paid for all good things, and the price must be paid in mental and spiritual coin. Now, the price is paid when we pay pay attention, because your attention is the most valuable thing you have. You can accomplish nothing at all till you pay attention to it. It is your admission fee to life, your attention. The price is paid when we pay attention. That is, when we put some mental effort into learning something good. The price is our attention. The good that is going on there is what we get for it. And to do this, we must discover where something good is happening and make sure we are there, paying attention. Now, it might be anywhere. It might be any time. It might be anything. It might be a symphony. Yeah, it might be a symphony. Many people get their greatest good and their greatest nurturing attending the symphony on a regular basis, taking themselves to a place where they sit for a couple of hours in the midst of harmony, beauty, balance, quiet, security, right? Much more than they get anywhere else in their lives. How many people have said to themselves or say to themselves over and over, I really should get a subscription to the symphony, and never do, never do. I wonder where they are those evenings when they could be sitting in harmony, beauty, peace, and poise. Wouldn't you like to know where they're hanging out those evenings? All right? So it might be a symphony. It might be a wonderful theater piece. It might be an uplifting religious service of any number of kinds. It might be in our classes, or it might be running with a better quality people than you usually hang out with. You get what I mean? It might be simply in better social company than you have been allowing yourself to endure. All right. You know, you can treat your head off. You can pray until you're mute. But whatever it is you are seeking must come to earth. That's down where you are, and I am. Must come to earth first in the form of new ideas. Whatever you are after must come to earth first in the form of new ideas. And if you are not where new ideas are happening, where they are being promoted, where they are being explained, where they are being encouraged and honored, if you are not where new ideas are being unfolded, paying attention, see, what you so passionately seek will pass you by. It will pass you by. What you need to know will not be known by you. Now, people who can't seem to get themselves to where the good things are happening are most usually victims of the belief that they just don't have the time. I'm so busy, I just don't have the time. If you are one of these people, you might look very closely at what you do spend your time on right now and ask yourself very frankly how much good you are getting out of it, item by item. How much good are you really getting out of it, or how much good have you ever got out of it? And when you do this, keep it to yourself. In other words, don't share this little exercise with anybody, because if you let anybody know, well, now, Marjorie, I'm sitting down tomorrow, and I'm going into my closet and closing the door, and I am going to ask myself this hard and burning question, what do I spend all my time on and it's worth it? If you share it with anybody that you're doing it, you're going to lie. You're going to be dishonest, because we are always preparing to present ourselves in the best possible light to other people. Keep it to yourself. That's right. Do it very privately, very frankly, and as you grow in the ability to be honest with yourself, you'll get better answers. Yeah, there are a lot of people that pray very, very hard. As someone I know says, she treats like a madwoman, right? But they pray very, very hard to get this, that, or the other. But you know, nothing can ever happen to us that is not able to happen through us. We have to be a participant in all of our demonstrations. Nothing can happen to us that does not happen through us. And if it is going to happen through us, we are going to have to be where it is happening and be open and receptive to it so it can come into our minds and work through our consciousness, because that's how life comes to life. Right? You see, in order to be part of the creative process, we have to give something to that process. And that something is our presence of mind, our attention. We have to pay attention. Now, the point of today's lesson is to encourage you to look for where good things are happening and to get yourself there no matter what. Look around you in your world to where good things are happening and to get yourself there no matter what, even if you must upset your daily routine considerably. Do you realize how many people do not want to upset their routine no matter what? Oh, God. You think their daily routine was a sacrament. Oh, God, I always do it that way, at this time, and this way. Oh, why don't you change all that? Just smash it. Just start all over. Oh, they're boring themselves to death and they don't even know it. So precious. Their daily routine is more precious to them than their possibility for progress. They want something new while clinging to the old. They want change without changing. It's absolutely insane. All right. So we want to encourage people to look around them, see where something good is happening, and get themselves there no matter what, even if it means upsetting their daily routine. And if you don't know where good things are happening, you can approach this whole matter another way. Decide where not much good is happening and make it your business to get away from there, no matter what. Look into your life, your comings and your goings, the things you do, and evaluate it and say, now where here is not much good happening? Look at where and upon what you are wasting your time and stop it, right? When you do this, you create a vacuum. And since nature deplores a vacuum, you will be making room in your consciousness for some new ideas, from some new directions. Yeah. So if you can't figure out where something good is happening, you certainly won't have any trouble if you look very closely at your comings and going, at finding out where nothing good is happening, where you're not getting much lasting value, and move out of it. Stop it. Yeah. Stop for a while. Go apart by yourself. Do it tonight. Do it this afternoon. Can't do it tomorrow because you're coming to class. Do it this afternoon or do it tonight. Get a pen and paper. Helps to objectify your thinking. Get a pen and paper and you make a list. You make a list of all the things that take up your time and keep your mind occupied, and then right beside it, you evaluate. You express some way an evaluation of what each of these things does for you in terms of real value. And then you total it up, see? Now, if you have a job, don't include your job. Don't do the job cop-out. You know, there are so many people when they get spiritual, they get unemployed. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't have time. I'm pursuing spirit on my money. Yeah. If you have a job that pays you money and you need money, that's valuable. Keep it. So I don't like it. It's not the first one you haven't liked. Keep it till you get smart enough to get something else. You can improve while employed, you know. All right. So, a lot of them, they go back to Georgia State. They're 43. They're going back to Georgia State to find themselves. They think they're at Georgia State. Anyhow. Sociology. It's always sociology at 43. They're going to become a sociologist. They can't get work for the sociologists that are 23. All right. So don't make an alibi out of your job. When you do this, when you sit down and you say, now look, what is it I put my time and my energy? Focus instead on the rest of your life activity. List the habits that absorb you, the things that you just feel compelled to do all the time, the habits that you're just doing because I just always do that. Put them down there. And you're going to go back and look at what do they do for you. Look at the places you feel you must be all the time. Oh, every Thursday I go here. Every Wednesday afternoon. Every time I do this. Look at the people you give most of your time to. And you don't have to evaluate those people. All you have to evaluate is what you're getting out of it. Look at where you put your time, your money, and your thought, and your emotions in pursuit of whatever it is you're pursuing, in pursuit of amusement or entertainment or distraction or love or self-esteem or whatever it is you're after. And say, where does this get me? Where has it ever gotten me? And you will soon find the time to do something else if you want to do something else. Now, if you don't want to do something else, if you want to drag your butt on through life in the same way all the time, you can do that. Who knows? Who will ever know but you? All right. Then you will get a picture of where you can spare the time it takes to go other places, to do other things, to be with other people, and to put your attention, your energy, your money, your time to better use on your own behalf. See, it is really so important to understand that when we walk out into the world each day, we ought to have an idea of where we're headed and why. We really ought to have an idea of where we're headed each day and why. And we really ought to make sure that our daily constitutional leads us in what they used to call paths of righteousness. I love paths of righteousness. You know what paths of righteousness are? They're paths that lead you in a right direction. They're not where Billy Graham lives. All right? He may live there, I don't know, but that's not why they're paths of righteousness. Paths of righteousness on a path that is getting you someplace right, or someplace that's all right with you, or someplace that you want to go, or someplace that's going to do you some good. Paths of righteousness. Yeah, a personal, honest consideration of your present mental and emotional environment will show you very clearly what you would do well to part company with and where the time could be found for better things. The things you think you ought to do but don't have time for. Not the things I think you ought to do, not the things your mama thinks you ought to do. The things you ought to do but just don't have time for. It's really a shame to go through life missing good opportunities simply because of old habits. That's awful. Old habits, old attachments that have long since stopped serving you very well at all, if they indeed they ever did. If indeed they ever did. I would absolutely hate to discover at the end of my days that I could have seen, heard, had done so much more had I not got myself stuck in some lifelong habit of giving all of my attention, all of my time to something that never paid off. I could have seen so much more had I not been focused on so much less. It would drive me wild to think that all along there had been so much more going on than I had imagined, and that all I would have had to do was to be there where it was happening so it could be happening for me. Wouldn't that be awful? I think that's what hell is about. Don't ever be afraid to commit yourself to a life of change. That's what the world's mostly afraid of, change. Yeah. Don't ever be afraid to commit yourself to a life of change, because change is growth. Change is growth, and growth is what life is all about. And as long as you are committed to something new, something better, changing from this to this, life will never fail to let you survive any pitfalls that may occur along the way. As long as you are willing to move on, life will move you on. Never be afraid of that, all right? Now, the science of mind is committed to give upward direction to any person who has decided to grow up, and that is why it is wonderful. So get with it and stay with it, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.